This is volume 27 of what has become a very popular part of our channel. And on these videos, I try to answer questions about painting and about motorcycles in general and share information other people have sent in to me. This is just a common forum for people that have a passion for these older motorcycles, maybe new motorcycles, or all motorcycles. We certainly enjoy all of them. And by sharing the information about painting, I think we've saved a lot of people a lot of work and a lot of grief, or made some projects possible that would not even be possible without information sharing. And in this modern world that we live in, sharing information via YouTube or via any method that's practical, I think it really makes all our lives better. It's the ultimate, I think so anyway, win-win, and you can watch this in 4K. So the first technical question today comes from Frank. And Frank asked the question that even I've asked, to be honest. How many miles should I go between oil changes on my bike? Well, some manuals call for 3,000, some for 4,000. But I guess there's a caveat in it, of course. And the case that I like to think of that makes sense, if you ride the bike like a touring bike, and you're out on the highway, you put a lot of miles on, but the engine is really just loafing along, you might get away with the longer of the two. And if you're doing track days, of course, it goes without saying, or you're riding aggressively, or whatever, or riding in dusty conditions or whatever, you might want to do it a little bit earlier than they call for even. Now, the answer that I always use, I go by the manual. When I buy a motorcycle, I get the factory manual if I can, or one of the manuals, and look and see what they say. And they almost always say somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. I like to think 3,000 is good for me. I ride a little bit aggressively, and maybe when you ride in the winter where the bike is warming up with the choke on, anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000. And in my case, a lot of times it'll call for the filter every other time. I just change the filter every time, as long as I got the pan out and everything. I just think it's cheap insurance. These photos were submitted by Clyde. He's got a 500 Honda 4 and needed some restoration. And according to his letter, and I'm really impressed how he did this. He sent some pictures of the before and after. He's watched many of the videos, used a lot of the tips that I've tried to share, and it's general information sharing. It's not like anybody's gonna get a trophy at the end, but look at the quality of this work. Clyde, you got to be proud of this. This is some super nice job. I think that's just priceless. I'd be super proud. Clyde, thank you for sharing. Now, in that vein, and this is kind of the kind of things I like to hear about the channel. A fellow named Joe said he liked the information that was shared on the recent R1 oil change video, and the tips proved useful when he did his. Well, that's what we like to hear, and that's the whole reason for doing these videos, the whole reason for having our channel in the first place, is to share information. Because basically what it is, if you might live in an area of the country where there isn't a bunch of people doing exactly what you're doing, or riding those types of bikes, or whatever, and you need to have, in our case, we have plenty of people. We share information through the A-Team and Luciano and all the people that work on their own bikes, Jose and Turbo Steve. But if you don't live in that area, the YouTube channel is a pretty good second place. Now, again, just the thing I love about the channel and why I think it's worth putting the effort into having a channel. And thank you to all the other people that do post good information. A fellow named Dan said he scratched the rear rim with tire tools, and he's going to try the method I show in the future. Well, now, the Gorilla Tape method. To be honest, there's people, and there's no right or wrong. There's people don't care if you scratch the rim. There's people don't care if whatever, or if it costs $100 to change a set of tires. Or if they pay to get them balanced and they're not really well balanced. Well, if you do it yourself, you know one thing. You can be very careful with those rims, whether they're painted, powder coated, or polished, or you just want stock rims. But they have the choice of doing it. It takes a little bit longer, it costs a lot less, and you have the satisfaction of knowing it's done right, especially if you do your own balancing. Now, I have posted all of the videos of painting all of the rims in my bike collection. Every one of them is out on the channel. You can look that up, search the channel. I get a lot of satisfaction out of having a nice set of wheels and maintaining them and sharing the information of how I paint them, how I get them to look the way they do, and keep them that way. Now, my good friend Scott in Connecticut has been restoring his RZ 350 tank. Had an issue with the paint lifting, and I made a separate video, it's already been posted, about what to do to make it better. So the fact that he asked that question on a question and answer, I actually made that whole video because I wanted to answer it in detail, and that has already been posted on our channel. And you can just back up a couple days, I don't know, a week or so, and it'll be on there. But there's a couple of things when paint lifts. Where the two surfaces come apart, something isn't right. You either didn't sand it rough enough, didn't clean it enough, or the thinner in the paint on top was too fast, dried too quickly, or it dried in too hot of an environment. So, but all that information, I won't bother going on to that. There's a whole separate video, and it has a lot of good quality information. So Scott, I know it helped you. I hope it's going to help other people. Now, in that vein, and this is the whole reason for having a channel, a fellow named Dave. The paint kept pulling up around the gas cap. He was restoring it. He degreased it. He etched it. He did everything possible. Again, I referred him to that video. And Dave, when there's all kinds of reasons paint doesn't stick. And that's why I thought it was worth making that video in complete detail with storyboards and everything. Because that's the kind of information, if you're not a painter, that information wouldn't be commonly known unless you worked in a body shop or you did custom painting. Now, I learned everything I know really the hard way from model airplanes, where everything is very, very delicate and the paint had to dry basically overnight, every coat. There was no room for error, and if you pulled up the paint, it was like hitting a reset button. You had pretty much a big repair on your hands. And it was very frustrating for me when it happened, and I showed all of the little tricks and tips that I use, like putting the tape on your shirt to get it a little less sticky. It's all on that video, so this may be just a good idea. Just go back if you have those kind of issues, or you think you might in the future, just go back and refer to that video. It's a good one. Now, this is from our good friend Scott in Connecticut. We went on a ride with him last summer, shot some video. He's restoring the tank. This is a piece of the paint that pulled right up. I went in detail and sent him several emails, and I made that video that I referred to about the paint delaminating, a separate video. I hope that's going to save people this kind of aggravation, and someday, very soon, we're going to get some pictures of the final result. A couple of questions I found very interesting. A fellow named Jack, he has a GS 1100E, and he mentioned that he has, on a highway at 70 miles an hour, it gets buzzy and busy. Well, to be honest, Joe Padula, when he restored his bike, and he was right at the point of we were going to go on that big double ride, we went to Nairobi. What happened was, I wanted him to ride my bike to see if he felt his was anything he wanted to improve or change, or because he had given me the steel brake lines and I had put new brake rotors on and whatever. And I thought he could learn something. I could learn from his feedback. He's a professional racer, and he has an AMA license, something I don't. So anyway, this is a really important thing. In the day of the GS 1100E, and in that whole era, in the whole 80s era, it was all about quarter-mile times. They really traded away a lot of stuff for those quarter-mile times, and low gearing was one of them. And I remember every bike I used to buy back in that era, before you even rode the bike a couple days, you go and put the smallest countershaft sprocket they sold on it, because that was how you could pull hole shots. Nowadays, not so much. But I told him, I said I had converted my bike to 530 chain from the 630. This is good information too for anybody who can use this. And my ratio that I wound up with after several different ratio changes, and Vlad got me the parts, was 16 in the front, 40 in the back. And what happens is, instead of having a drag race bike, I have a bike that I can ride 30 miles out on Route 80, and the engine is in cruise mode at 75 miles an hour. It's not buzzing away like a coffee maker that's overheating. But anyway, but that is true about the good old days when drag racing was king. Now, not so much. I think they're more interested in performance and handling and who knows what. But if you lived through that time, you know how the magazines, it was the first thing. This bike turns in the 12s. This bike, that was the whole thing. And as you look back at it, it's like to me, it's like bell bottoms. Kind of went out of style. So I guess I've modernized my GS over the years to suit my riding style. And maybe if you're still into drag racing, at Ruts Hut there still were a lot of drag race bikes around. Anyway, there's a fella that's responded many times to my channel, and he's obviously a professional of detailing, or and I'm not so sure exactly, but ST Hildis, and he sent me many tips of products to try, and he uses Scotch-Brite instead of in place of sandpaper. And to be honest, you can do that. I have tried in the past other people have suggested that, and I've had some luck, no luck, whatever. There's several different grades of Scotch-Brite too. But one of the things, I am kind of old school about everything, and sandpaper is the devil I know, but it doesn't mean I couldn't learn from trying new products. So you always want to walk a fine line. I always want to have what I know works pretty well for me, and I'm always willing to try something new. And then if I learn anything, pass it on to you. A few photos from years back when I did this Moto Guzzi restoration, and there was a lot to learn back then. And even back then, sharing information, sometimes it changed from year to year, the products we used. But the one thing that's always been steady through the whole thing, at the end of every one of these jobs, the finish is always pretty nice. Now, our friend Corey mentioned something that I thought's worth passing on. He liked that trick of, he must have had some problem pulling tape at one time, which if you paint enough things, you will have that problem someday. Corey, the trick is you take the blue tape, rub it on a clean shirt, see if it has any dust along the edge, and that makes it a lot less likely you'll pull up fresh paint. And he liked that tip. I assume that's one of the things he'll be doing in the future. And if you have good luck, let us know. And if it doesn't work, let me know. But I've tried many different things. Again, I made a video about just about tape, and I don't think it's 2 weeks old. You can just go back on the channel as if you were playing the videos in reverse order, that play all button, and you'll look right, oh, there it is. Easy to find. My channel, if you put the play all button and then just go down, 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 you can pick these up because they're basically, especially the V series of videos, they're all in sequence. Now, kind of things I love to hear. Reynolds, he watched the tire change video and was able to change his own tires. He said he was very satisfied. He put probably $100 in his pocket if he did two of them. And if he did it, and I'm sure if he didn't do it right, you go back and do it over. And I told him, take your family out to dinner. Yeah, you can, $100, you can go buy a nice dinner even in the New York area. And thank you to Turbo Steve, who has contributed many little things into our program and various technologies. Always a good friend, and he bought me dinner at Ruts Hut. 1 hot dog. So I get some positive comments from the last question and answer from Mike's Bike Channel. Maybe you want to check that out. He sent it in as Mike's Bike Channel. He has a 2020 Z900. Nice bike. That's the one, that was the runner-up to my MT-09 when I looked at him at Motorcycle Mall. And had to search my channel by topic for buffing, priming, and etc. So I sent him a little thing, but in case somebody doesn't know, I'm not sure they know. And he said he likes his Michelin 6s. But in case somebody doesn't notice, what I run into all the time is people that don't know, you can search my channel. If you're watching my channel, not general YouTube, and you're on my channel, you can put up in the bar, changing tires, and up will come 10, 15 things. If you're in YouTube general, you have to put my full name in quotation marks. Windy, U-R-T-N-O-W-S-K-I, quotation mark, and the subject. And in general YouTube, those videos come up. That's useful information. And Corey, my friend with the Thunder Race again, he said, and I don't really know the answer to this, but I guess there's a way we could check it out, that some of the clear that's in spray cans isn't really gasoline proof. So my answer to him was, and it's, you know, I'm old school, is go take a light bulb, a gas can, a tuna can, whatever. Paint it with that clear. Let it dry a couple days. Pour some gasoline on it and see if it holds up. That's a really old school way to figure things out, but before you go paint a gas tank. Now, I know, and I have a friend, will not mention any name, who painted a gas tank with a paint. And when we went for gas, the paint came off. Some of the paint just peeled right off. So I know it can happen, and it can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter who it happens to, it's still not a good thing. So I got a fellow named Candy, and this was another thing about cleaning things. He wanted to know, after you use SOS, rinse it. Yes, of course. And you always want to rinse everything. A lot of the times, I just finished a video, I was doing some carbon fiber parts for Vlad. Rinse them in the sink, let the water run. Hot water better than cold water. Think laundry, think dishwasher. Clean. Heat tends to loosen stuff up. Soap tends to loosen stuff up. And a nice product to get friendly with is, there's a product called Crud Cutter that I've used, and Dallas turned me on to it. I have it in the shop. I have one out in the garage. Crud Cutter is real good for cleaning around the chain, and of course the magic one that I buy in gallon jugs, Simple Green. All excellent, but always wash it off. But once it's rinsed, make sure, this is the big thing, make sure you have an etch. If you have a piece of glass that's shiny, no matter how clean it is, paint's not going to stick. It's got to have that etch. And the way an etch works is, surface is an engineering equation. A flat surface has, let's say, 10 square inches of bonding area. Well, if you make the surface zigzag, like with scratches, now it's got 4 or 5 times the amount of surface area. That's what causes the grip. And that's a really important concept to know if you're going to paint something. And painting all the plastic and fiberglass parts on the MT-09, I emphasize over and over again, because it'll save you time and energy. Use primer sealer. So a fella named Hayden Kane, maybe that's one name, I don't know. Hayden, my apologies if I have your name wrong. He asked me a simple question a lot of people might not know the answer to. How do you remove uncured resin? You're mixing up, doing a job with epoxy, building some art, and we've got many of those out on our channel. But at some point in time, there's some uncured resin on a spatula or on the part or on the mold. You want to get it off. The way I do is with acetone, but there's other solvents they make just for that. I don't have them, I only have acetone. And you could even try the slow drying paint thinner, urethane thinner, sometime will take it off. But acetone is the best way to get that off. If you have, especially if you have it on tools, and it's a good idea to get it off before it totally cures. Now, another thing, and it's just simple stuff, that if you have a mold, and this gets involved, so I don't want to take up the video with it, and you have little bits of resin still on the mold, it's always a good idea in between using a mold and cleaning it and re-waxing it and putting more PVA on, get off that old resin. That can just build up and be a mess. And I do remember that from molding model airplane propellers. After a while, it just gets to be sloppy as can be. It's just easy to clean it each cycle. Now, another fella, Stotic, S-T-O-T-I-C, has a Ninja 650 somebody overpainted. Don't you love when other people paint stuff? And I suggested to him, he wanted to get the paint off. Now, he's really in luck if the guy used paint, typically from paint cans, like Rust-Oleum, for instance. If he did, even after it's old, you can take acetone and paper towels. We used to do this with model airplanes to take the paint off. Put rubber gloves on, and do it outside, of course. Take acetone and just pretend you're buffing, and you look, ooh, the paint's coming off. Sometimes modern urethane, not so much, but old, most things in a spray can will come off with acetone. Not all, most. That's a I guess one of the hard lessons to learn is you buy something that's somebody's painted, and you don't want to. If the nuclear option is to use paint remover, boy does that get to be a mess. And we have coming up when we do the Moto Guzzi restoration, I've got to decide how I want to get the old paint off of the Moto Guzzi tank. That paint is not in good shape, so that's coming up on a future video. If we ever stop getting these parts from Vlad, he's got more carbon fiber there. Anyway, we try to do it all. I try to as much as I can. Summer is a busy time around the farm. Now, I'm so glad we were able to finish up Turbo Steve's turbo bike, because once the plants start growing, we run out of room, and we don't want to be eating silver cucumbers or anything for this summer. And we're already at the point where I really shouldn't even be painting out there at all. Summer is here, and we are working on the farm every day, and it is one of Karen's true joys. So, Roland, I'm answering you as best I can. He did not like music on the old videos. Well, you know what? I agree. I watched some of the old videos, and I wonder, what was I thinking? But then, what would happen years ago? I posted these videos, and a lot of them, they were shot with a camera with low resolution, and they were just to share information, and I just was bored sanding things and doing things. Now I've put a lot of effort into trying to make the videos more professional. In fact, at the end of this video, I'm going to explain how this evolved for me, if you stay to the end of the video. But anyway, I do agree, but keep in mind, my daughter Stacie Rose, you want to look her up, S-T-A-C-I-E, last name R-O-S-E. She has a music channel. She's written music for many famous people. She's toured the country. You want to hear how my daughter sounds? I'd like to put her music on this, but I don't know that the people are all into her style of music, but she does some pretty nice stuff. Anyway, thought I'd give her a plug. Now, I'm going through this because I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Corey. See, a lot of people respond, and thank you to everybody that basically sends in comments, because we try to use even the comments that are, well, what would you say, that are criticizing. Like, we always get somebody, maybe it's the same person over and over again, it says, you talk too much. Okay, he might be right. Karen agrees. Probably everybody watching this agrees. But especially when I talk about the MT-09 being a good bike. Yes, I do. But on the other hand, I have to explain my logic. As a young kid and a modeler, I wanted to learn how to paint model airplanes and build model planes and fly model planes. And I was willing to listen to somebody for 4 hours if they could give me one little tidbit of information I could use. In the world of carbon fiber, I was building carbon fiber stuff before there was videos on YouTube that you could just go look up. Oh boy, you had to dig for that information from the suppliers and figure it out, and before you could make parts. So I am a fanatic about digging for information, but not everybody is. Some people want to have it, just you push a button and it jumps out of the camera for you. So I really don't know. But I am long-winded, but I try not to leave out details. I try not to leave out things that you could use if you're a motorcycle enthusiast like I am. Anyway, I wanted to leave this to the end because a lot of people might not even know this or be interested in it or whatever. We have recently, in the last month or so, spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort. I got a Lumix camera that lasted 2 days beyond the warranty period. Amazon did finally take it back, thank Najat. We replaced that camera with a ZV-1, all with the idea of upgrading. We wanted to shoot and be able to put it on YouTube in 4K. So with the upgrade of the camera, and of course the GoPro's already shooting 4K, there's only one part of the puzzle left. My very old and very humble computer was a little hesitant to be playing with 4K footage. It's all resolved now, thank you to John Pothier, Najat, and we all got together and put our heads together, and we got it to where pretty much from this point on, all the videos should be in 4K. And on every video I try to put in exactly how you can go, because every device is different. I found this out the hard way. I was trying to help somebody figure out, they said your video plays in 480, and they didn't know about the setting button and that, and I said, oh yeah, look at that, in 2160 it plays beautifully. From this point on, everything on our channel will be in 4K. We have the computer updated, we have a nice new ZV-1 camera that seems to be working real good, And from this point on, I hope you'll be a regular viewer of the channel. John Pathia made this very useful little schematic to show if you're not familiar with YouTube or you're new to YouTube, you go down to the settings button down at the bottom right. You have to click that first. Up will come this little choice of what you want to play it in, and you put it at the highest setting your device will allow. In this case on me, it's 2160. Feel free to send in pictures, fzrguy72618@gmail. We'll use them. We've used some on this video already. And feel free to comment positively or negatively. We try to learn from the negative and take some pride in the fact that we do every once in a while get a positive comment. And never think, ever, even once, that there's only one motorcycle in the world. I have come to appreciate them all. As you get older, you will look back and say, boy, I wish I had that RD, I wish I had that GS, I wish I had that. And I am so glad that I didn't sell a lot of these bikes, that I hung on to them. And I'm so sad when I hear people say, I had blank, 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 and I sold it. So I hope you found some information on this video to be useful, positive, non-political, and we try to cover everything. We really do have a passion for all motorcycles, and the limiting factor for me is how big my garage is. My passion isn't limited, but my garage is. And I really envy people like Jay Leno that can just go into unlimited collections. But even having a small, humble collection like I have, it keeps me busy, it keeps me young, it keeps me active. I enjoy interacting with the friends I ride with and hang out with, and we eat bagels and drink coffee with, and go to the meetups, all of the places we have meetups in this part of the country. Carbon fiber work, I've done a big part of my life. And maintaining these bikes, and when you have a bike collection and 4 of them are historically registered, one thing I guarantee you is there's always going to be some maintenance for you to do. And my bikes go back to the 70s, and in the 80s, having what I thought then was a super bike, and the bikes just kept getting better and better, and I wanted one in my collection from every 10-year period. And at the ripe age of 77, I managed to have that, and I even have an MT-09 as the cherry on the sundae. But every one of the bikes is different. They're all fun, they're all good, and again, what I need is a bigger garage, a much bigger garage. And thanks so much for watching.